Hello, welcome to Eye on Africa here on France 24. I'm Yunko Yatade. Let's take a closer look at the stories making headlines across the continent. The UN accuses M23 rebels, the Congolese army and other armed groups of committing serious rights violations, including torture and executions in eastern DRC. A damning new report from the Human Rights Office says some of the atrocities may amount to war crimes. The 15th edition of the African Diaspora International Film Festival is underway in Paris. We take a look at the documentary Fête des Pères, or Father's Day, with director Ayana O'Shun. The piece offers a raw and moving look at absent fathers in black communities. The newly reconstructed Prince Moulay Abdellah Stadium is officially inaugurated in Rabat. Now upgraded to meet FIFA 2030 standards, the iconic venue signals Morocco's bold ambitions to join football's global elite with world-class infrastructure to match. Thanks for joining us. The UN is accusing Rwandan-backed rebel group M23, Congolese armed forces and other armed groups of committing serious rights violations. A damning new report from UN Human Rights Office says some of those atrocities may amount to war crimes. They include torture, executions and disappearances. The Democratic Republic of Congo now faces a renewed threat of conflict as peace efforts between the government and M23 falters. Well, since seizing Goma in January, M23 has advanced across North and South Kivu, killing thousands and displacing hundreds of thousands in the mineral-rich region. The UN's human rights chief is demanding accountability. Take a listen.
The M23 armed groups, with training, material, intelligence and operational support from the Rwandan Defense Forces, captured major cities in North and South Kivu. The group engaged in a campaign of intimidation and violent repression through a recurrent pattern of summary executions, torture, detention, and forced disappearances, and forced recruitment targeting anyone perceived as opposing the M23, regarded as a threat to its notion of order and security, or deemed fit to fight or serve the movement. The report also documents grave violations committed by the DRC armed forces and affiliated groups, such as the Wazalendo, including deliberate killings of civilians. It identifies a pattern of widespread use of sexual violence by them as well, mainly gang rape and rape against women and girls, and looting by members of the FARDC and Wazalendo during their retreat from the front lines in January and February.
An update for you now on that catastrophic landslide that wiped out the remote village of Tarasin in Sudan's Darfur region. So far, over 370 bodies have been recovered and laid to rest, but the Sudan Liberation Movement warns the death toll could climb to 1,000. The UN says the full scale of the disaster is still unclear, as the region where the disaster struck, the Mara Mountains, are nearly unreachable, fueling fears that an entire community has now been vanished. Well, let's take a listen to what people there have been saying.
After the incident, we managed to find more than 370 bodies, and we buried them. But the rest we weren't able to reach under the rubble, and some were taken by the landslide.
Well, let's take a look at other news making headlines across the continent now. At least 31 people killed and nearly 50,000 displaced as communal clashes grip northern Ghana's savannah region. The violence, sparked by a deepening land dispute, broke out late August, with entire communities now living in fear and the local chief's palace set ablaze. Over 13,000 Ghanaians have now fled across the border into Ivory Coast, seeking refuge. The World Health Organization says Mpox is no longer a global health emergency. The UN had declared the crisis last year after a dangerous outbreak spread from the DRC to neighboring countries. But now cases are falling sharply in hotspots like Congo and Uganda. The WHO's chief says the sustained decline marks a turning point, though continued vigilance is crucial. And it's a major milestone for Air Côte d'Ivoire. The airline receives its first Airbus, marking its debut in direct and regular long-haul flights. Configured in 4 classes, the jet will launch the carrier's first intercontinental route, a Abidjan to Paris route, starting October 1st. A second Airbus is on the way. The airline is eyeing future routes to the Middle East and North America. Now, the 15th edition of the African Diaspora International Film Festival has kicked off in Paris. 11 powerful films from across the globe are being showcased. One of the pieces in the spotlight this year is Fête des Pères, or Father's Day, by Ayana O'Shun, a raw, moving look at absent fathers in Black communities, told through powerful stories from Quebec and Guadeloupe. Well, we have the pleasure of speaking to Ayana now, who joins me. Hello.
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming in to talk to us about your piece.
My pleasure.
We know that you were hesitant about making this documentary because it explores some of those stereotypes that are attached to absent Black fathers in the community. Tell us why you went ahead with it anyway.
I went ahead with it because I could not deny that this subject was a pretty essential subject in the Black communities. I was born and raised in Montreal, Canada, and myself, I grew up with a single mom. My father left my mother when I was 2, and so I was raised by her only. And growing up, I realized that half of Black families were without fathers in Canada, in the US, and some parts of the Caribbean. So I asked myself, how come? So for me, doing this film was a way not only to understand the phenomenon of absent Black fathers, but also to reconcile with my own father, trying to understand where he came from based on the social and historical aspects.
Well, your personal experience does play a massive role in this film. Tell us how you incorporated that in the film.
I start the film by saying that my father left my mother when I was 2 years old. And for me, in the film, it was important not only to talk about my own experience, but go meet other Black women, in majority, who lived through the same things. Why? Because, you know, there's been a lot of books and movies and films about the relationship between fathers and sons, but not too much has been done for the relationship between fathers and their daughters, and the influence absent Black fathers have on the daughters. So since I lived through these consequences, it was important for me not only to talk about it, to share it with the audience, but also to try to really understand what's behind all this. And the reason I decided to do the film is because somewhere I healed from this wound with my father. And all the women in the documentary, they also succeeded to empower themselves. So not only they healed, but they are showing ways, by the way they live, to be able to have a fulfilling life anyway.
You said how when you grew up, you saw that half of the Black fathers in North America, or Black families in North America, were fatherless compared to 1/5 of families on average.
Yes.
You talked about how you spoke to a lot of the women who experienced this. What did they have to say to you?
It was fascinating what they had to say to me. You know, the experiences are diverse, so for me it was important to show that. So you have the cases of fathers who left. You have the cases of the fathers who died. So it's the same, you know, wound. And some women I interviewed in Guadeloupe told me that their fathers was there, you know, physically, but he wasn't there emotionally. And these fathers, they count as present fathers on paper, but the reason why I think the film touched so many people in festivals and in movie theaters, it's also because so many people live with absent emotional fathers. So they're there physically, but they're not able to relate. And the consequences for them is the same as if the father wasn't there.
And what message do you want people to have when they leave those cinema rooms watching your film?
I want an empowering message. You know, the film also interview Black fathers who are present in the new generation, and they're fighting to be in the lives of their daughter. So the message I want to put out there is that not only it's possible to reconcile the history with a capital H, with the small histories of all these people, it's possible to heal, it's possible to be empowered, and the new generation of fathers is totally different.
So you have hope. You believe that this will improve, that more people will...
Yes, and the numbers are saying it. In 2010, in Canada, half of the fathers were absent, And today, 15 years later, it's 25%. So it's closer to the national average. And for me, it shows that not only there's hope, but there's an awakening of Black fathers in the new generation.
Well, it sounds like we're moving in the right direction. Ayana, thank you so much for coming in and talking to us about your film. Best of luck with it. I hope the screening tomorrow goes really well.
Yes, it's at 6 o'clock at Cinéma des Arts tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we're ending the program in Morocco, where the newly constructed Prince Moulay Abdellah Stadium has officially been inaugurated in Rabat. Now upgraded to meet FIFA 2030 standards, the iconic venue signals Morocco's bold ambitions to join football's global elite with world-class infrastructure to match. France 24's Natalia Ruiz-Guilaro went to take a look.
Here we are at the Prince Moulay Abdellah Stadium in Rabat. This is Morocco's capital and newly revamped stadium. It was built in 1980, but it was completely demolished 2 years ago. And now they have probably one of the most modern stadiums of the African continent. It can host about 68,000 people with very modern facilities. Probably one of the biggest improvements has to be with that LED lighting system for the pitch that will allow the grass in order to grow in better shape. Now, this is also a sporting complex because besides this big stadium, there's also an Olympic stadium for about 22,000 people, very modern, as you can see. And this is one of the venues of the African Cup of Nations. Actually, it will host at this end of the year the opening and then the closing matches of that competition.
Well, that brings us to the end of the program. Thanks so much for your company and stay tuned. Plenty more news to come.